Hi, I'm Ali Porti, fashion and lifestyle journalist and editor of Zayla magazine. I've always been interested in biographies and in the stories of people's lives, basically listening to what stirs their souls. Welcome to the soulful side of life, where I let you in on some of my conversations with inspiring people from around the world in fashion, faith, entertainment, music, and entrepreneurship. These are conversations that stir the soul about people's journeys, about the ups and downs of life, and how they have overcome certain situations. I hope that these episodes will inspire your life in some way, so enjoy over a cup of something hot or on your drive to work. This is The Soulful Side of Life and can be found on Spotify Podcasts or Apple Podcasts. So I had the privilege of sitting down over Zoom with Christine, who's known for her film The Clark Sisters, to talk about her newest film, Albany Road, out on limited release on November the 15th. Taking 23 days to shoot in Champaign, Illinois, it stars Renee Elise Goldsberry and cinema legend Lynn Whitfield. Albany Road is anchored in this idea of Black joy, laced with redemption and forgiveness, as you might expect from a company called Faith Filmworks. And this production company is headed by Christine and her husband, Michael Swanson. The film touches on a plethora of relationships that we can have in life, and through colorful characters starring Renee Elise Goldsberry, who plays a woman named Celeste, a high-powered jittery ad executive, and her almost mother-in-law, Paula, played by Lynn Whitfield. A freak snowstorm and a ticking clock forces them to share the last remaining rental car in a fierce snowstorm, which is awkward for both of them. As their literal and emotional journey continues, secrets are unearthed, lost loves confronted, and it's messy and scary life events come to light. As a writer, filmmaker, and multiple award-winning director with an MFA in film from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, Christine has developed, written, and/or directed entertainment projects for HBO Films, Lionsgate, Universal Television, Warner Brothers Television, CBS Television Studios, TV One, A&E Networks, BET Films, Stars, and Faith Filmworks. For over a decade, Christine has made films championing Black women, and her experience with Albany Road has led her to believe that mostly white, mostly male studio executives are all for telling Black trauma stories, especially during award season, but they're somehow allergic to Black joy projects. While the film does face some harsh realities of life, it does not focus on Black trauma. And she and I get into this in the interview, so enjoy this podcast conversation with Christine Swanson. What inspired you to make this film? Why did you feel the storyline needed to be told?
Well, about 25 years ago, I did a movie called All About You that starred Renee Goldsberry and Debbie Allen was in the movie. So I saw two of them interacting, and I really thought that's something I hadn't seen before, like two intergenerational Black women who are equally funny, equally formidable. And I just kind of parked that in my brain, and I thought it would be interesting to do a road trip movie like Thelma and Louise, with two Black women and maybe in a snowstorm. So I just kind of parked that in my head. And then many years later, my husband's mom was dealing with terminal illness, and she didn't tell us how bad it was until it got really bad. And I just really grappled with the idea that somebody could keep that away from their child. And I just parked that in my head. And then many years later, I came up with an idea called Albany Road.
Yeah, and what does it mean, the title?
Well, it's funny because I was just in like upstate New York area, and I saw Albany, New York. And I remember when I saw it many, many years ago, I thought, Albany has a really nice ring to it. It could be a great name for a movie. So there's no direct meaning in terms of the word Albany beyond the idea that I wanted a nondescript title for a movie so that you couldn't tell what kind of movie it was.
Right.
So I if I could get away with that. But symbolically or metaphorically, I use it throughout the storytelling to signify what the meaning of home is. So it's a destination physically that they're trying to get to, but it's also a destination that Paula has already arrived at in her head in terms of home and her final resting place.
I see. Is there any reason why you chose Pennsylvania for the setting and the countryside?
Well, so when you drive from New York to D.C., you kind of skirt around Pennsylvania. And because of the snowstorm, I needed them to go through Pennsylvania so that they can meet up with some people who live in the Pennsylvania area who were dinner guests in the meeting. Yes.
I see.
Not giving away spoilers. So that's why I kind of chose Pennsylvania. Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. But that's on the route. That's on the route from DC, from New York to DC.
Right. I went to school in DC and often would take weekend trips to New York. So nice. I know it well. Nice. Okay. So the film touches on life's key relationships like mother, son, girlfriend, mother-in-law, friendships. Employee, and so on. How did you go about fitting all of these relationships that people have in life into this one film? It's a lot going on.
Well, it is, but when you break it down in terms of structure, you have specific characters in the film, so you have objectives for what the characters are going to go through and experience, and you kind of give them an arc. So every character has an objective and every character has an arc. And then some of these characters collide with each other to create conflict. So it's really just mining what does what do the characters want? And next, what do the characters need? And so I'm constantly asking these questions and answering them. And in the seeking of the answers, there's a lot of combustion. So that's, and every character's goal and themes or goals are connected to the theme of the storytelling. So that creates a cohesive target in terms of storytelling.
I feel that overall answer what each character needs and wants is healing and forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to especially when we're talking about the protagonist Celeste and the antagonist Paula, each of them need exactly that, but they need each other to arrive at that conclusion. Yeah. So that is what the story is chasing, is this kind of reconciliation that can only come through grappling, fighting, and tussling until everybody surrenders.
Right, which is the story of faith, which is like that underlying strong theme, right, of the film. It's faith-based.
Well, it's funny because you say that because you notice it. Some people may not notice it because it's funny, it is faith-based, but it's not.
Yeah.
It can be faith-based, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
But it is embedded in the storytelling in a way that is so organic that you don't have to call it a faith-based movie, but it absolutely is.
Yeah. And that's amazing that you've been able to make a movie that non-Christians or people of other faiths can relate to. Yeah.
That was the goal, because I always felt like that was possible,
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think a lot of faith-based movies are aiming for that. They're typically preaching to the choir. And to me, the choir is the universal condition of the heart.
Yeah, which is forgiveness and getting healed. Okay. Do the Amish couple represent something unique or?
Well, it's spoiler alert, but it's really the representation of unity. And what unity looks like when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know what disunity looks like when it's not there. So it's really like it's comedic relief, but it's also, they too are literally on a journey, and in following their point of view, we kind of see things through their lens, and we do understand that everybody is on a journey and ultimately want to land somewhere where they can be happy and whole. So they are the representation of that.
I see. Okay. It took you a while to make this film. Why did it take so long?
Well, because we work in an industry that doesn't greenlight stories that really expand on the depth of characters who happen to be Black. So I shopped this script around for 10 years, and I didn't get any bites. And when I did get a bite, a producer wanted to take it to a studio, but he wanted to hire a male director. And I promptly took the script out of his hand, and I told him, go take a walk. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's a new day. Yeah. And if you don't see the writing on the wall and the proliferation of women of color directing, then you missed the boat. So it took me another few years to try to shop it and get it made. And then finally, my husband and I decided to just 100% finance it ourselves. Wow. And we're 100% self-distributing it ourselves. Right. And it's a perfect time because Hollywood is contracting, and it's really an influx because nobody knows anything.
Yeah, and where it's going. I saw in some notes that Rachel had sent that you felt, I'm paraphrasing, that studios, it's kind of what you were just saying, they don't know how to tell stories of Black joy. They know how to tell stories of Black drama. What do you mean by that?
Well, name a story of late that you've seen that exemplifies Black joy. Mm-hmm. So that's my point. Mm-hmm. So most of us watch content produced by Hollywood. And when it comes to stories about Black people, the way that sometimes people choose to see us cinematically is through our trauma. So you will see, I bet if I said, name a story that deals with Black trauma, go. And you can name like a dozen movies, right?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the picture here?
There's a lot wrong.
Yeah. And I believe like sometimes when you're watching too much Black trauma, it really wears down on your psyche in a way that does not do our community a service.
Yeah.
It does not help us with our psyche, and does not help us with our long-term health. So as you know, Albany Road deals with some tough issues. So I'm not saying that it's like a happy-go-lucky movie. It's not. Mm-hmm. It actually grapples with some serious issues while also leaning into elements that amplify our joy, that amplify our love, that amplify our connectedness to each other. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, this should not be an anomaly, mm-hmm. but it is.
I see.
But it is. This should be normalized. Black humanity, mm-hmm. In all its splendor, mm-hmm. be normalized, and not only in the way that deals with our trauma.
Right. Because it's a beautiful ending that you don't see that kind of ending in Black stories.
You don't see that kind of beginning, you don't see that kind of middle, and you don't see that kind of ending. Yeah. So you don't see that kind of storytelling, period. And so it's like, having been in this industry for as long as I have, there's no excuse for that beyond we are not greenlighting stories. And even when we get into powers to greenlight stories, we assume the position of of the dominant class, and perpetuate the same kind of traumatic dynamics because people's hands are tied. Yeah. You know, so they're not looking to innovate. They're looking to pay their mortgages and bills.
And I guess that means we need more some black studio heads.
Well, there are some, and they are not helping move the needle in the right direction, particularly, there's no lack of content.
Yeah.
Even when we own our own studios, there's just a lack of excellence.
The mindset
is excellent. Excellent. Like, so mediocrity is normalized on so many levels, even when we're calling the shots.
Yeah. Okay, 2 last questions. I really enjoyed a lot of Aretha Franklin tracks in the film. Is that done on purpose? Does she represent?
Well, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Detroit.
Right.
So it's an homage to a great artist from my hometown.
Yeah.
And I wrote a lot of the Aretha Franklin B-side songs into the story because I felt that it really amplified my voice as a Black woman. And it's just, as you can see, it's just beautiful to hear and watch blend into the storytelling.
Yes. Is this the beginning of you making excellence films that you may have to fund yourself?
Well, I also made the Clark Sisters movie for Lifetime, which was, I believe, on a high level that I did not have to fund. So it doesn't always have to come from my pocketbook, but maybe from my imagination. There are obviously examples of having already done excellence.
Yes.
So yes, more of that coming forward.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for your time. Yeah. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode and that you have found a soulful connection to the conversation. God bless you, and until the next episode, go bless somebody else.